We're going to talk about the economics of trying to be a professional chess player and why I don't regret not playing the FIDE Grand Swiss this year. So it just finished. If you don't know, FIDE won. Hikaru finished second. Super strong event. Has spots for the candidates. And I've played this tournament once before and haven't been interested in playing since because it is very depressing to play professional chess. So first of all, it's let's talk about it. There were how many players? 114 players. The vast majority of them were over 2,600. Even then, a lot of them are top 100, over 2,650, etc. Top 100 GMs, top players, etc. And it's 11 rounds of classical chess held in Isle of Man. And it's one of the best ways to become poor by playing in one of the nicest events on the chess calendar. Because, first of all, you got to get to Isle of Man. So the question is, why do people play it? Well, first, let's look at the basic numbers from the regulations and why I got pretty depressed when I played here. There's 46 prizes, right? 46 prizes, 114 players. You finish in the top 46, $2,000 is 46 gets you $2,000. What expenses does a player have? Well, if we go to the regulations, this is one of the nicest events. This and the World Cup are the two events with like a high prize fund for the average strong grandmaster. You know, the candidates is just a few players. Other events are private events, round robins. So it says right here, travel and accommodation. Because people always ask, do you get paid to go to tournaments, you get expenses? Well, this is considered one of the nicest events possible. So each registered player receives accommodation and meals allowance of 150 US for each night spent on Isle of Man, up to a maximum of 14 nights. Travel allowance, and that depends on which country you play for. If you play for Chess Federation in Europe, you get $950 to get to Isle of Man, right? You play for anywhere outside of Europe, 1,600 US. Now, just to break it down, it's 2023, so flying is a lot more expensive than it used to be. There's some inflation, there's other shortages, whatever. But let's just say the travel allowance covers $950 will get you there from Europe, and 1,600 US will cover your flight to Isle of Man from many places outside of Europe. Can't speak for everywhere. I can't speak for Australia, or I don't know about South America, but let's say it approximately does cover your costs. Your costs are covered. You live in like a federation in Europe that's really far away, I don't know. But let's just say they definitely, that should cover it. That's nice. Hotel plus 3 meals a day for 150 US. That should cover it. Isle of Man is not the busiest place. It's not the cheapest because it's it's not like the cheapest place, but it's not particularly expensive from being there. 150 a night should cover your hotel room and your meals. It should approximately cover that. So that's fine. Let's just say that's a wash. That's flight, food, board covered for the players, and again, these are almost all super strong players. Now, that's not really what matters. I mean, that's good. That's a baseline. But then let's talk about how, if you're a professional, you need to actually make money, right? You need currency. So the tournament is 11 games of chess. The schedule, 11 games of chess, and a free day. So 12 playing days. and you have to arrive a day before, leave the day after. That's minimum of 14 days. If you're flying from farther away, you might add on an additional travel day. So it could be 15 to 16 days at the most, 14 days at the minimum. You want to arrive early for jet lag reasons, etc. Yeah, you're looking at 16, maybe 16 days. If you arrive earlier than that, it's good for you, but you're paying your own dime per the regulations. So 14 days, full days budgeted for just playing. Let's just say that's it, So that's 2 weeks. And then you take a look at the process. So when you play these tournaments, usually you play your games of chess. The games go up to 7 hours a day in this time control. I had a 7-hour game. I think there's a game that even went longer. Probably the average game is like 3-4 hours. But it goes up to 7 hours. Games are at about 2:30. So you wake up, you prepare, the pairings are out. You prepare 3-4 hours on average. Then you get ready for the game. And you play a 4 or 5 hour game. And then that's already 8-9 p.m. You go for dinner. And that's a full day. From morning until night. It's chess preparation, going to the venue, chess playing. Then maybe you relax a little bit or check your game, sleep, prepare, rinse and repeat. And you're playing top players every game. So full chess immersion. I can tell you in Isle of Man, there's no like partying or big group fun. Very serious event. Okay, so you have while you're there, fully occupied. And then before the tournament, players are usually studying and training chess. So you budget like, you're probably spending a week or two before the event at home just training chess. Okay, so that's the time invested. That's what I call an opportunity cost. And then you play this tournament. And for the vast majority of professional players here, they're going to come home with nothing, even if they play well. I go to final rankings after 11 rounds, go to number 46. That's 6 out of 11. So everyone after 46, 2/3 of the field, you don't make any money, and you've probably spent about 3 weeks of your life. And you've been stressful, you're playing full days of chess. That's it. There's top 50 players that get nothing. So it doesn't really matter, but you're like working hard for 3 weeks and you get nothing. We'll Be Fine Now says play for the love of the game. The problem is, how do you pay for the bills with that? I was speaking to Aryan about it, a good friend of Aryan Tari, Norway's number 2, and it's like, for me, it's hard to justify being one of the best in the world and you don't have government support. How can you actually sustain yourself if you literally make $0 for 3 weeks of work? That's not very common in most things. And the prizes are not that high that it's like, oh, let's say I finished 31st to 46, you get $2,000, even $2,000 for one of the nicest events in chess, and one of your best tournaments. That's not well paid. Sir Mike says, don't chess federations pay you to play? No, very few chess federations pay you to play. I don't know of any. This is an individual event, not a team event, so you're not playing for your country. Yalta says, temporary loss, but in the long term, you've gained a lot of experience and now you can have a stronger comeback. I'm not talking about kids playing. I'm talking about professional players that have been GMs for 10 years. So it's not, you're there, your experiences just doesn't pay for, like these are experienced players. It's just a very strong event. So sometimes you're going to do well, sometimes you're not. Even if you do well, right? We can just click on somebody in the event, number 52. 2683 performance, Azerbaijan, gained a lot of FIDE. You don't get anything. So just compare that to, you could teach chess, you could work at McDonald's, you could be low energy like me and stream, you could quit chess. The numbers just don't add up. And this is one of the nicest events in chess. I'm not saying they should be paying higher prizes because there needs to be a return on investment for organizers unless the public is funding it. But there's not even a minimum prize. And it really is one of the hardest events, one of the strongest opens in the history of chess. It's very hard for me. It just doesn't, like, well, spending 3 weeks of my life, if you're a really, really good player, if you're like a Fabiano, a top GM, Hikaru, you have a decent chance of making the candidates. You have a decent chance of the 60 or 80K, top 2 prizes. And you already make good money in other events that have guaranteed prizes, minimum prizes, blah, blah, blah. So, but for the average, like 2650 to 2700, which is top 50, top 40, it's like, what's going on here? Like, if you multiply this and add it throughout the year, it doesn't look very good. And this is one of the nicest opens out there. So it's like, for me, I just find it very hard for it to make sense to be a professional player. You're playing for experience, playing for fun, whatever, by all means. But it's not even like a poker prize fund or something where the $2,000 entry. It's like, no, this is like, the prizes don't scale up that hard, and it's all really good players. And chess, pretty accurate when it comes to results in terms of the ELO rating. It's not like this is offset by a lot of good tournaments, where GMs come in and they make 10, 20, 30K. Paul JB says, right, but if you win one tournament, you get over $1 million. What tournament in chess can you win $1 million in? What are people talking about? Some of the stuff I'm reading here is so far off. Somebody else was asking some other things too. You're talking about golf. Exactly. Like golf, golf is well funded and they have some viewership. Oh, okay. I'm saying, what tournament can you even win 200,000 in? So it's like, the whole thing is very hard, but for me, there's a certain age, you're a young grandmaster, you should play, you're trying to get better. The vast majority of players here that didn't make money, they've been GMs for a while, they're in their 20s and 30s, they're in their prime years for earning money. And most of them don't have a chance of winning top 5 or top 10. You're here because you simply don't have other opportunities. If you don't play Isle of Man and you just sit at home as a grandmaster and you want to be a professional player, like just playing, it's not like, oh, I'm going to go raid a tournament and win the $2,000 first prize against 2,000 rated players. It's not just sitting around. So I think it's only gotten worse in chess because there's only more and more grandmasters. And then you have to look at cost of living of where you're from because you can justify dollar amounts based on cost of living. But like, I'm talking about strong grandmasters in this field. And I'm talking about very hard work. It's not a fun event. I play the Olympiad every year, every 2 years. And Canada doesn't get paid. Even countries like Norway, they don't get paid at all. So you're going for the love of your country, and you're also spending 3 weeks of your life just playing chess. And even then, lots of players don't play because it's hard for them to justify it. But Isle of Man is a really good example of how hard it is to play and how hard it is to justify losing 2, 3 weeks of your life, playing good chess, not having a bad result, and your take home pay is $0. It is worse than anything you could do. And the upside is like, oh, you perform at a top 50 in the world level and you get $2,000. $2,000 for 2, 3 weeks in a volatile industry where you don't have that every month, you don't have that tournament every month. We can even extrapolate that. If you play at that level every month, okay, fine. Make 40K a year, 35K a year. Maintaining that level. If you drop it, it goes down. And you have limited years holding that title in the first place. So it's hard for me. It's hard for me to justify and to look at. And when I talk to some players, they're like, I mean, they don't know what else to do. They spend so much of the year getting, so much of their life getting good at chess. It's all they know. But like, it's actually pretty sad. This isn't that dissimilar to other sports, though. No, no, it's the difference with chess and other sports. There's different tiers of sports. Is sports have monetized better than chess. Chess still hasn't monetized over the board events, where the top players provide exciting games. Tournaments are able to increase the prize fund, and everything, everything rises. There's some Olympic sports where this is similar to, for sure. And I'm not saying the prizes should go up because money doesn't grow on trees. But for me, as a logical numbers person, when I was like 22 years old, which is when I quit chess, I only played 2 years full time. I'm like, it's only getting harder, and I don't even see the upside. Like, it's a very stressful life. Um, and so, but like, I could have played this year. Apparently, I could have emailed them. There are still some spots, and I did play a few years ago. But it's like, if I'm playing, it's just because I want to play top players and try to get better at chess. The only reason that I can afford to take 2, 3 weeks of my life away to do that is because of the business I've built and worked many years of my life for. But if I was in someone else's shoes, like that would be really rough. It would affect my mentality. Um, Yalta says, I think these are all just accusations that we can't 100% sure have an answer about. I played professional chess. I'm telling you from experience. Like, I've played these events. I'm a 2600 plus GM, and I employ some of the top players in the world, even in our professional chess teams. So I'm very involved in chess economics in every stage, as a player, as a manager. I've played some of the nicer events I've been lucky to be invited to. So, I've been on the lucky end of things as well. But this is one of the nicest events in chess. And yeah, it's just sad because like I know the players. You talk to them, and it's like you have a limited time to play, and you're playing your ass off. And there's no like ATP tour or minor league system or whatever it is. It's like there's no structure, there's no consistency, and that's probably going to tie into what I'm going to talk about afterwards. But like it's extremely stressful when you literally this is an event where your costs are covered, right? That's going to tie into the next thing I'm going to talk about. But this is one of the nicer events. At least you're not losing money. There's many cases where you lose money and you play, and you might play really well, but it just doesn't make sense. So you might be wondering, well, why do some people do it? Um, a lot of chess players don't know what else to do. A lot of them like the lifestyle they have. If they don't make a lot, they get to be the bosses. And a lot of it is there's a discrepancy in countries where you're from. India, there's a bit of funding for players, at least flights. There's a program where the government partners with national companies, oil companies, etc., and they employ grandmasters and give them a minimum salary every month. Um, you can do that. That's only certain countries. Uzbekistan funds chess. While most people aren't from Uzbekistan, there's, the former Soviet Union countries have some state money. That applies to very few people, and that's not something you can guarantee. That's like politics. That's some guy in the government or some, whatever, legacy from the Soviet Union where it's like, okay, let's put a bit of money into chess. Even though our country has a very low cost of living, can't afford to raise it, there's not even necessarily a democratic process happening in those countries, but let's just toss a lot of money towards chess, even though there's not going to be a huge return. For some countries, there is a return. Uzbekistan is really good at chess now. You can tie that into national pride, culture, etc. But sometimes it's just like poor countries being even poorer. So this is just me ranting because I was like, well, I mean, I could have played, but I don't regret not playing. Isle of Man is not a very fun place. The tournament is so serious, it's not very social. It doesn't have to be. And the upside is just not very, very attractive. And I'm speaking from perspective of somebody who's just trying to play professionally, not like an influencer or something. Like, it's very hard to do both. Very few people. Hikaru was really the exception, not the norm. But yeah, that's Isle of Man. That's one of the nicest events. Really, really, most people are losing money. 3 weeks of work, 2 to 3 weeks of work with no pay is a reality for 2/3 of the field for one of the toughest events in history. That's going to be a reality. It's going to be a reality every time they run the event. So it ties in, people ask, why do title players cheat on chess.com? Why are there cheaters and people risk their reputation? Well, you could spend 3 weeks of your life working hard to try to get $2,000 every single day, 12 hours of chess, 10 hours of chess. Or you could try to figure out a way to cheat and potentially win $1,000 at home without any traveling around your family. Or try to win $200, $300. Because, and I'm talking about top, the average grandmaster is nowhere near winning a prize of $2,000. They play this, again, most of the people who came home with nothing after 2-3 weeks of work, those are top 100 grandmasters, top 200 grandmasters. They are in the top 10% of GMs. Top 10% take home pay would be zero. And there's the other 90% of GMs. So we're talking about already the very best players getting nothing. And then the other 90% of GMs, and then there's IMs and FMs, and we don't want to talk about CMs, etc. But zero prospects. I'm not saying I don't believe in that everyone should be paid or whatever. It's not communist Russia. But it also surprises me sometimes when I see players continue to play when the conditions only get worse. Everyone knows competition in chess has gone up. Players have gotten stronger, technology has gotten better, kids are playing more, and kids aren't playing for money when they start out. So in other sports, you don't really have 14-year-olds taking your job. You might compare that to esports a little bit, but even esports is mainly adults. But in chess, that's going to happen because they don't need to play for money yet. So now there's a huge influx. Chess has gotten harder, so you have to study more to maintain your level. Kind of like solvers in poker. You gotta study more to maintain your level. But the prizes are going down, and there's more competitors, more people competing for the same pot. Um, so yeah, it's just hard for me to like. I feel bad. I feel bad when I see the games. I enjoy it, whatever. But for 90% of the players, it's rough. It's rough. So Chessable has been, things like Chessable have been nice for players because they're training these openings anyways for these events. They're not going to give away all their secrets. They don't have to relearn these things. They can kind of make these courses and then try to play events, get some bit of income on a regular basis. But not most players there aren't doing Chessable. Some are, and that's smart. But that's a new thing. So yeah, it just blows my mind, honestly. I actually just blows my mind. I don't know. By the way, Bass Maniac, thanks for the subs. I don't know why people play the events. I don't. It just it doesn't work with my head personally. It doesn't. It's like I just can't. Even when I wasn't playing for money, I was like the time invested versus the return or the upside return and the opportunity cost, factoring it all in, hardly ever makes sense. Especially if you're coming from an expensive country. So that's my like rant about the economics of chess tournaments, and this is again one of the nicer events on the calendar.